Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Men and Prophets podcast. Today we have myself, Blake Sharkeyy, and our co-host,
Ben.ddavid.
So Ben.ddavid is here today with co-host Blake Sharkeyy to introduce the counterculture series of this new playlist we're gonna make of episodes, multiple episodes, because it's a season. Seasons usually have multiple episodes.
Thank you, Blake.
So our series question is going to be, where is the world going, and where are we as followers of Jesus supposed to go?
Yeah, and that's going to bring us into our first episode. Most people would kind of guess that we would go on to some topic if we're talking counterculture, like maybe something like LGBTQ or abortion or something like that. But we're actually going to start with something that's a lot more subtle, but it's just has, that was my stomach, but it has terrible effects. And it is the mean Christian. The mean Christian mainly consists of Bible-believing conservatives who seem to have lost touch with grace provided to them and have therefore established a cold front to the world that does not show what Jesus meant. You getting a call? It was.
That's my bad.
Oftentimes, you'll see a conviction prevail over compassion, even though it should be a compassion first, then leading to a conviction. That's often one common thing that you see in that mean Christian thing. And we see the mean Christian often... There goes Blake's computer. We see the mean Christian often exalting themselves over others, even forgetting who they are by nature and how they are saved by grace. These are just a few symptoms of the disease that is currently plaguing churches all around Western culture. In our first topic was how it was the conservative Pharisees that Jesus actually went after the most in his time and in his ministry.
Yeah. The Pharisees were often rebuked.
Rebuked.
The Pharisees were often rebuked by Jesus on accounts of self-righteousness, along with seeking power and wealth. Today we're going to go over the three things we see Jesus rebuking the Pharisees over and how that correlates with the modern mean Christian. There are other reasons Jesus rebukes the Pharisees, such as overburdening the people and being motivated by attention, but we don't see that as much in this mean Christian movement.
Yeah, so we'll kind of go in a chronological order of what I believe to be we'll go from like least likely to happen now to like most likely to be like the cause of like someone being like a really mean Christian. And the first one is going to be the first rebuke that Jesus had to the Pharisees is that they made it more difficult to enter God's kingdom. And I'll read over a verse, Matthew 23:13. That Jesus says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in the people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those who are trying to." Yeah, and we see how the leaders of these times paid little to no attention to people they deemed sinners, and in turn ignoring the people that needed them the most. And we see how Jesus completely flips that around. He goes after the sinners, and he loves them, and he tries to show them what to do and how to correct and how to live the life they're meant to live properly.
And not only those Pharisees are just stopping themselves from entering the kingdom of heaven and not having anything to do with it, they're stopping others. Yeah. Just kind of spreading hatred because they have hatred in their hearts.
Yeah, they keep this this also plays into the like exalting themselves thing, where when someone believes that it's all about just holding up the laws and holding up your righteousness, then you like we'll go over this a lot more, but you get this very surface level kind of Christianity, and you just see yourself as better than everyone else because you're doing all this stuff on the outside that people can see. So.
Yeah, it's more we had a guest pastor at our church not too long ago. But he was well, I guess it wasn't even the pastor that explained it. It was his one of his students that came up and like said his own word. Sorry, I was just looking if it was still working. Um, uh, um, he explained his own word, and he kind of came up and said that he was trying to at some point do more for his church and learn more instruments and play piano. And then God one day just told him like step away from that piano, you know, just step past that piano. And he's like, "What? Why? I'm worshiping you. I'm serving you." And then I was like, "No, because now look at where you are right now. It's just you and me, and there's nothing in between us. There's nothing. There's nothing like blocking, I guess, the amount of like love you can receive. So like putting kind of like a piano in that space to be able to worship. Not saying that you shouldn't worship
Yeah.
like through song, but putting that piano in between them is kind of like sometimes for people it's making an excuse to say that like, yeah, I'm serving Jesus and this is like the way that I do it and you have to do it like something like this or something related, but God wants that time and space between you and just him.
Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes we get overly obsessed with the means and we forget the end.
Yeah.
Like all these means have an end. All the practices are
Mm-hmm.
means to an end. All these forms of worship are means to an end. That end is connection with Jesus. That end is being with Jesus. And we have to keep our eye on that through using those means
Yeah.
and not let those things take control of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you're going to church like every single day to serve and you never have that one night or one morning to spend with God, you're having all these people, all these instruments, all these things blocking you and Jesus. Not that the people around you are bad, just saying that you need to have time between you and Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, we also see this in uh like if, for example, like when Paul was talking about like the spiritual gifts, how they're like a good thing, they're a great thing, but they're a means to an end, and how over in the end of that, he's talking about how all that without love is nothing. So if we just pursue these means and then we in no way show love through that, or in no way we're transformed by that, or in no way we're, whatever, nothing happens through that, then what is the point,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's no love if it's just for show.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we working back a little bit into what we were talking about, with the how the leaders like paid no attention to the sinners and therefore left them out, or the people they would call the deemed sinners, and then left them out. Jesus said in Luke 5:31 through 32, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance."
Yeah, this also this ties into overburdening the people, which we don't see too much today, in my opinion. But it definitely is something that can easily happen.
Yeah, and overburdening the people means like they would throw out all these different kinds of laws on the people, religious and
Yeah.
spiritual laws, like how I went over. Um, that one episode about how there were like 600 plus laws of stuff that you can't do on the Sabbath that would be considered work.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
just something that, like, could you imagine trying to keep that?
Yeah.
And Jesus ended up saying that like what Sabbath is meant to be a day of rest.
Mm-hmm.
God didn't need rest, but He knows that we do. So he ended up saying was that something that was meant for rest for you guys, you have turned into something that has become a burden.
Right.
So they were overburdening people, which I don't see too much in this whole kind of like mean Christian thing, where like people are overburdening someone and they're like telling them they have to do all this stuff, maybe for like one or two things, but like it's not like that's why I didn't really include it.
Yeah.
But this does kind of tie well together a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, in a way, I'm kind of comparing it to like a one of those colleges where like the students teach themselves. You know, for me, it's kind of like that compared to a what's it called? Um, One of those schools, like military schools, the parents sometimes send kids to when they're not behaving. A what is it called? What is it called? A boarding school. A boarding school. It's like that. Like the amount of rules that a boarding like the difference between both of them is that boarding school has like way too many rules.
Mhm.
And so if you're seeing it in like context of the Sabbath, the more rules, the more work you have to do to keep
Those rules.
yeah, to go in between those rules.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a I'm doing like another analogy. But it's kind of like you're on a track, right? Yeah, you're on a track and you're running. And like those rules are like poles that stick in the ground. And like the more poles, the harder it is it's gonna be to run through those things.
Mhm.
And without all those rules, you'll be able to run freely and do what you want, go in whatever direction you want to.
Yeah. And like they like ended up coming up with like there's some really crazy examples I really kind of want to look up, but there's some crazy loopholes that like they would all like figure out and stuff like
Oh,
that.
really?
Like there's one where they like just like put like a copper wire like all the way around the city for some reason. I forget why. It's so weird. I want to look it up.
Oh, yeah. Your
Well,
Chapel Hill preached about that once, right?
I think
I
so.
think I heard that story, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Guys, while Ben was looking this up, this video is sponsored by Deezer. Make sure to check us out on Deezer, guys. We had a dinner yesterday at our house. We have a dinner every week. Anyone is invited. But our friend Caleb said that, like, unironically, he didn't. Well, like, we never mentioned that we like consistently said Deezer on this podcast, and he was like, Deezer is actually one of the the best audio quality
Can you
streaming services. Anyways, yeah, explain
okay.
yourself.
Known as Eruv, the wire is a symbolic boundary that allows observant Jews to carry out a range of ordinary activities otherwise forbidden on the Shabbat. So I think that was
What?
placed like all the way around the city.
Oh, so they could do whatever they want
Not
because
so they
it's
can do
like,
whatever they want, but like it says that they allowed the Jews to carry out a range of ordinary activities otherwise forbidden. So some,
oh,
no idea what, but
dang,
it's
what?
crazy. Yeah.
That's weird.
That's the kind of stuff that happens when we overburden.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we ignore like the people that we were talking about that need to be reached the most in those tough conversations that we need to have, like the Pharisees, we kind of see ourselves turn into these mean Christians, elevating ourselves to this like imaginary pedestal and this imaginary like podium that's
Hmm.
just built on our own self-righteousness.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's an illusion of your own goodness that is just very surface level and very just I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like you can definitely see it in people too.
Yeah.
Like when you're just, I mean, if you like go into a random church and like just start talking to people or just observing, I feel like you can feel or like see the difference between people who put themselves higher
Yeah.
and the ones below. Not that there's that many, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, One thing I also see often is like where Christians will pit themselves against other Christians. In this kind of sense, that's summed up in this quote by Chris Jami, I think. Jami? I don't know. One cannot despise Christians and love Christ at the same time. Too many are fooled into the self-righteous notion that those who stand boldly in the faith are nothing more than religious zealots and Pharisees, and that they themselves are closer to Jesus by communing with the mockers. So this kind of ties into that like mean Christian thing. Like we often just like will go against other people in the faith over just either small stuff or stuff we don't agree on, but we just like see ourselves attacking
Yeah.
in ways that we shouldn't
Yeah.
be. And it says here, they themselves are closer to Jesus by communing with the mockers.
Hmm.
So the people within the faith who are coming after them, and they still commune with them. It's like they're showing a much higher level of patience and
Yeah. Yeah.
compassion and virtue. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of different, but that just reminds me of the like African American guy that like just preaches to people in like colleges and stuff. know what I'm talking about? He was like preaching to that Satanist that like barely spoke English or whatever. And he like hugged him and started like praying over him, and the guy started crying and stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, I don't know. It was a TikTok guy. So you TikTok users probably know. I've seen him before. But here, wait, hold on. Maybe you can pull him up.
Well, what are you trying to like compare it to? Like,
No, I'm saying that's kind of like. I mean, it's different. It's different because he's talking to non-believers, but it's kind of same in the sense that he's showing respect to people who are not showing respect back to him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I also see often is where Christians will pit themselves against other
I
Christians.
just read that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
I read that
gosh.
quote.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Wait. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This guy needs to pay attention.
We should be taking every opportunity we are given, not just the ones we pick and choose. The more we pick and choose, the more we open ourselves to become these Pharisees.
That will move us on to the second topic. How the Pharisees and modern day mean Christians often neglect mercy, justice, and faithfulness. And the opening verse will be Matthew 23 through 24. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, strain out a gnat but swallow a camel.
Yeah. When it came to rule following and law abiding, the Pharisees were better than anyone in the land. What they lacked, Jesus calls out there mercy, justice, and faithfulness.
Yeah. And in no way is like following the rules going to be a bad thing. We'll never say that.
Yeah.
But if done for the wrong reason, such as for attention or to look good for others, we will over time acquire this heart of the Pharisee that they had.
Yeah. Yeah. On the topic of mercy, there is a quote from Abraham Lincoln that says, "I've always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice. This doesn't mean we should ignore justice, but it means that in your day-to-day life, that you should have mercy more often. You might discover that that same mercy is being shown to you."
And as Christians and disciples, we have all equally been shown overwhelming amounts of mercy
Yeah.
from God through His Son. So we should have more than enough to give. This ties in that topic of overflowing love and all these things.
Yeah.
That God has given us a tremendous amount that we have plenty to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
What? Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Matthew 5:7.
Oh.
Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Luke 6:36. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.
Yeah. God is merciful to us. Therefore, we should show mercy. And when we are shown mercy, mercy will be shown to us, whether that be through another person or God Himself.
Yep.
It's pretty easy. It's just like, I mean, if you say something nice to someone, they're gonna say something nice to you back, or nice to someone else back later. It's just like that smile that you can give someone at just passing by them on the road or something might make their day,
Yeah.
make someone else happier.
I think that's more like kindness. Mercy is like forgiving someone when they do something bad to you, when you feel like you shouldn't. Mercy is like is choosing not to punish someone. Or mercy is when you show someone mercy, you're choosing to withhold something that might be considered just. For the sake of like what you're saying, love.
Yeah.
And like how that Abraham Lincoln quote said that I've always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice. So instead of just someone does something bad to you, you instantly just hit them back or you do whatever. Showing them mercy in that sense might often bring about better things. So, and like I said, like you said right off the start, is that doesn't mean we should ignore justice.
Yeah.
But in many times we can show way more mercy. What is shown?
Yeah. It's just like going back to my previous analogy. It's kind of like those like free form, free spirit colleges where like students teach themselves more more than often the boarding school students are more uniform, like come out more uniform, respectful, and usually more intelligent because they're, I mean, taught by someone else that's, taught to teach them rather than them teaching themselves, like, the other school teaching themselves. Yeah, it's kind of the same way.
Yeah, yeah. And there's this gravity of just like darkness that pulls us into wanting to judge people just instantly, rather than being gracious, showing mercy, seeing that they're just like you, or they're human just like you. And this is something that just echoes throughout all of history. We see it very clearly in something that happened not so long ago in the civil rights movement. In a quote that Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness; only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate; only love can do that." I mean, that's a really easy example that we can all look back to see where people just they saw something different and they judged instantly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and this isn't really like a mercy thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it kind of plays into the same. Like, obviously, it's not mercy, like because that should just be a given thing.
Yeah.
Treat someone the same way, but it plays into the same idea of like we shouldn't be so quick to
Right, yeah.
punish.
I feel like it pulls into the same way as like when you're, you know, having your bad mood or your bad day from, experiences that day, you're the average person who, doesn't have these thoughts in their mind, they're going to take it out on someone else,
Mm.
right? Either speak bad words or, have, false negative actions or something. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And tying back to kind of what I was saying is, we see how mercy plays into a much larger theme in the Bible, which is love, which is what we talked about a lot. Um, we can't have mercy on someone if we don't love them the way that Jesus called us to.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's just something that because when we're called to love everyone, it makes it much easier for us to have mercy on them.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, if you teach or teach, if you show like everyone love, not everyone's gonna show you love back.
Mm.
Obviously, just like in the world, if you show hate, not everyone's gonna hate on you back, because there are those few people. Um, that's gonna happen. Obviously, don't let it discourage you. But yeah, I don't know how to end my sentences.
I don't know. I could take it. Um,
Oh, if we want to move away from this judgmental cold, we should embrace love as Jesus taught us and live like he did so we can become more loving and in turn show mercy.
yeah. And the flip side of mercy, well, not really the flip side, but another thing that is often ignored by the Pharisees is justice. Um, Ecclesiastes 3:17. God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. In Proverbs 21:15. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers.
Yeah. This aspect mostly falls on both sides of the political spectrum. We often seek justice when someone on the other side does something wrong, but never seek justice when it is someone we agree with or want in office.
Yeah, we'll tend to always like if you're conservative, you'll talk about how all like the liberal like candidates or whatever, how they've done all these bad things or whatever, but we often don't address problems that are on our side
Yeah.
or vice versa. And that's just like more like a favoritism thing. But yeah, justice is not something that is uh, partisan or that shows favorites. It is something that should be given to all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Justice is, I mean, in that way, it's like bias, I guess is a good word to put it. When people like obviously are higher up on like the civil scale or something, they if they're doing their job correctly, they're not going to have a bias on certain situations. Just like a judge in court, they're gonna ignore relationships that they have with people or um, just ignore like the type of person that person is and just have justice for the actions that they've done.
Yeah, and we see in this quote like how kind of a lot of our Western ideas of justice get kind of skewed and flawed. There's a quote by Jessica Nicholas. Western views of justice are primarily focused on how things should be done, laws, rules, and what should happen when the laws are broken. In Hebrew thought, justice is focused on what life should be like. Justice in the Hebrew world was concerned not just with laws, but with enhancing all of human life, especially the social world. And then we see how this is done by ways justice was carried out, shown in this next quote, also by Jessica Nicholas. God's justice is higher than merely punishing someone who has committed an injustice. He desires to restore everything that was lost.
Yeah, this should go for all manner of things, whether in the judicial system or judicial system or a dispute between someone in your personal life. Seek justice and restore what was lost.
We often forget that second part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we react on thoughts rather than I guess what's right sometimes.
Yeah, what's right? Rational thinking. Yeah, it's important to keep that in mind. And we see, when we forget this and we don't carry this out in our own lives, we can see ourselves turned into these mean Christians because we just when we show favoritism, when we show bias, when we do all these things, and we put on this. We might be more accepting to people who agree with us, but we put on this a cold front to people who don't.
Yeah, right.
And that is just nowhere near what we're called to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I like about a lot of churches, that they just accept everyone that walks through the door, no matter what they look like, what happened in the past life, anything like that. Everyone is accepted. Yeah. And that's not the case usually in like a lot of jobs or just things like that, I guess. Yeah. The next, the third thing is faithfulness. And a good quote to start it off is Revelation 2:10, which says, "Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." And another good quote is 1 Corinthians 1:9, which says, "God is faithful, who has called you into fellowship with his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord."
Yeah, this is a very common repeated theme of the whole Bible. God is faithful,
Mm-hmm.
because it's true. I mean, He has proved to us time and time again that He's faithful. If you want to see God's faithfulness in action, go read the Old Testament and see how many times Israel fell and disobeyed God, and God remained faithful. There's a story. This is a crazy story. We all probably know it too. Is the Ten Commandments story where
Mm-hmm.
Abraham was on Mount Sinai and he was literally making a covenant with God, and the people made a covenant with God to obey these commandments, these 10 commandments. And Moses went back up to the mountain, or he was up on the mountain, and while he was gone, the people made that golden calf and said it was God, and they worshipped it. And that was literally the first command in the commandments that they just. What is she doing?
I don't know, she's scratching her head.
And that was the first command in the commandments that God just gave them, that they just agreed to. And literally, the next story that's told is how they were disobeying that while Abraham was still on the mountain. So it's imagine getting married
Mm-hmm.
and then on your honeymoon, even worse, on your wedding day, you find your spouse cheating on you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how it goes in the story. God's like, Abraham, leave me alone. I'm going to kill them all. He's basically saying that.
Yeah.
And Abraham's even like, man, I don't even know. What am I supposed to do about these people? But he ends up interceding for Israel and saying, remain faithful to your covenant. God remained faithful when we break that covenant every single day. Me and Blake, all of you, Israel.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
anything we can do.
No.
So
No.
I just wanted to go on a tangent on that really quick.
Yeah. The part in Revelation where it says, "I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison and test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days." I feel like that's common a lot nowadays because mostly in prison, I mean, obviously you're released from like a lot of temptations and distractions in the real world, and you're kind of, I mean, everyone in the Bible is like handed what? Everyone in the prison is handed a Bible. Um, and usually you see, I mean, they're obviously bored in prison, so they start reading and they start changing, um, and they become faithful. But I mean, that's just until out of they get a church, or oh my gosh, I can't speak English. After they get out of prison, and then I feel like that's like the strongest test to see if you stay faithful. Because once all those distractions start swarming back in, it's hard for that person to not go back to their old ways because that's how they saw the outside world. You know.
Yeah, I think I'm much more like something that's a little more practical for us to put in mind because a lot of us probably haven't gone to prison is like
Yeah.
when you go to like a youth camp or some sort of retreat,
Uh,
and you get this like really like, kind of like almost like spiritual high, I guess, um, and then you walk away from that, and this always happens where you just go back to the same things you were doing
yeah.
before.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't really do much.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's kind of like analogy time. It's kind of like a chiropractor. Like most of the time for a chiropractor, that like ankle is going to get popped or your back's going to get popped, and then eventually it's not, I mean, most of the time it's not always just gone like, permanently. Like most of the time you're going to have to go back, get that same thing popped over and over again. Yeah.
yeah, going back to what we were talking about though, with God's faithfulness, there's a quote by Paul Silway. God's faithfulness is the one constant in the equation. He's the rock on which we stand. Okay, he's gonna start.
Katie.
Yeah, the Pharisees lacked faithfulness in the sense that they didn't carry out the whole mission that they were tasked with. Only the parts that they wanted to and the parts that they agreed with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see oftentimes with being Christians is they only carry out the like the rule following or the
Yeah,
self
the
exalting
changes
self
that they don't want to
righteousness.
change.
Yeah, but they don't tend to carry out the justice or the mercy or the compassion
Mm-hmm.
or loving
Katie.
everyone.
Katie. Good girl. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's pretty true. Uh, yeah, we are called to be faithful with all God has tasked us to do and being available for all the opportunities He sets before us. This can come in many forms, but most of the time it happens the way that John Newton puts it. John Newton puts it, he says, when we have been brought very low and helped, sorely wounded and healed, cast down and raised again, have given up all hope and been suddenly snatched from danger and placed in safety. And when these things have been repeated to us, and in 1,000 times over, we begin to learn to simply trust to the word and the power of God beyond and against appearances.
Yeah, and again, Robert Bertram said, genuine faith comes forth from the iron smelter of affliction. What's the commonality between those two?
Uh,
Faith comes from, as some people would say, the fire.
oh, oh,
That's often where we see faith born for us.
yeah, yeah,
When we go through hard times and tough things and are given a lot of responsibility, that's oftentimes where we see faithfulness born. If we lack faithfulness, we open ourselves up to many things becoming a mean Christian is. Oh, if we lack faithfulness, we open ourselves up to many things. Becoming a mean Christian is just one of them.
yeah, yeah.
And then our third topic, and our arguably the biggest topic that I think I see the most, is how the
Wait,
Pharisees.
wasn't that the third one?
Huh?
Faithfulness was the third one.
It was the third like subcategory of the second
Oh,
topic.
oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So this
Oh,
is the
yeah,
third
sorry.
topic.
My bad.
They focused fully on external righteousness.
Yeah.
The Pharisees did. In other words, they wanted everyone to see how good they were and have a strong reputation rather than do what was good in
Hmm.
all circumstances.
Yeah. And a good quote to kind of match with that is Matthew 23, verses 25 to 26, which says, Katie, it doesn't say Katie. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean up the inside of the cup and dish, then go outside. Also will be clean. Or wait, then and then the outside will also be clean.
What is that out?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of. Hold on, give me a second. To me, that kind of relates. I mean, I guess kind of what he's saying is, yeah, if you clean the outside of yourself and leave your outside full of greed and self-indulgence, then you are not going to be right. The outside is only going to be clean temporarily until the inside dirties the outside.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the way I see it is that, like, I'd rather have a clean inside of a bowl than an outside of the bowl because the
Yeah,
inside's where I'm going to eat from.
exactly.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of like what I see there because, I mean, like, that's the important part of that. And if we ignore the important part and just focus on the part that can be, I'm not saying the outside isn't important, but like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like okay, hear me out. Okay. So your body, okay, in this analogy, right? The cup the cup uh represents you. Yeah, the cup represents you, right?
Mm-hmm.
The outside of the cup is clean. Think of like a mason jar, right? Or not a mason jar, sorry. A hydro flask. Think of a hydro flask. So it's closed, so you can't see that it's dirty on the inside. The cup is clean on the outside and dirty in the inside. And your body is like your faith, right? So every time you go to work or school or something, you go out, you take that water bottle and you fill it with water. And every time you're out, you start drinking from it. And then every time you drink it, and then you get sick, and your faith, which is your body, gets damaged. And then, your body gets weaker, aka your faith gets weaker. And then the next time, like the cup gets moldy, and then you put water in it, and then you drink it, and then your body gets more weak, which removes more faith from your mind and your body. And then eventually, it all gets worn out, and it's shown to the outside.
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't really paying attention.
Oh my gosh, whatever.
But hopefully the people who listen.
The audience were paying attention.
This commentary or the study Bible says about it, you clean the outside of the cup and the dish, refers to the ritual washing of containers and plates from which one ate and drank. But if the person using them is internally corrupt, full of greed and self-indulgence, the external cleansing proves worthless.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Nice.
And
Nice.
then going back also, you've seen this repeated throughout almost all the verses that we've read. When Jesus is talking about the Pharisees, he uses the word hypocrite or hypocrites. The word most commonly used by Jesus to describe the Pharisees. I don't know exactly what the Greek word is, but at that time, it literally meant an actor in a play.
Oh,
Yeah, so someone who's just putting on a mask,
yeah,
trying to be someone else. In other words, what Jesus sees when people do good things to like around other people for. Because remember that Jesus can see your heart posture, the why you're doing things. So when he sees that you're doing things just to look good for other people,
mm-hmm.
but you act, totally different, and you do just kind of whatever you want to do in private or whatever, have no true relation with him at all, and he sees you as an actor.
Yeah, yeah. I guess yeah. Actor is a pretty good word. It's like Jimmy Fallon, for example. He seems like a good person from the outside. Good funny person. Funny, haha. That guy must be funny and a good guy. On his own time. But Jimmy Fallon was like eventually found out that like did cocaine and like treated all of his um like workers like horribly. So I mean, yeah, yeah, actor is a good word to um put there. Uh, we see this very prevalent in mean Christians because they like to follow all the rules and hold everyone accountable, but it is often from bad posture or at a very surface level with no real relationship with Jesus, which sends them into a spiral away from who they want to be.
Yeah, I kind of think back to that quote that your pastor said about how you can either be a Christian 20 times, like for 20 times, 20 years, or like whatever. You can be a Christian one time for
Yeah,
20 years.
yeah, you can either be a Christian uh 20 times for wait, sorry, hold on. You can either be a Christian uh you can either be a Christian for 20 years or you can be a Christian uh 1 year, a 1 year Christian 20 times.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's how it.
Another quote, though, is from Leo Tolstoy. He says, "A man is more or less Christian. A man is more or less of a Christian only in proportion to the speed with which he advances towards infinite perfection, irrespective of the stage he may have reached at a given moment. Hence, the stationary righteousness of the Pharisee is worth less than the progress of the repentant thief on the cross." Um, so that big connection that I'm trying to make with this modern mean Christian and a first century Jewish Pharisee is that they have a stagnant stationary righteousness in which they are caught in that is very surface level, and they end up staying there and never actually growing closer to Jesus. Like Leo Tolstoy says, hence the stationary righteousness of the Pharisee is worth less than the progress of the repentant thief on the cross. Because the repentant thief is making progress and he's
Yeah,
moving.
right.
But the righteous Pharisee is stuck
Mm-hmm.
in place. We'll never be perfect. So we always have room to go. We just need to keep moving. And we don't need to be moving at a ridiculously fast rate. The faster the better, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But we don't, as long as like there's like this thing, like the number one rule of prayer is that you show up
Mm-hmm.
and you show up every day. That's like the only rule of prayer. That's just like an example of what we need to do. We just need to show up. We need to be there.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's more of like that person is working on how they look on the outside to everyone else rather than building up their faith. They're building up their appearance. Um, but going back to what you were saying, that is how we find people who follow Jesus for so long but don't embody it in any way and instead represent the opposite and end up pushing people away. We are all mean Christians sometimes. This gives no one the excuse to judge, but it is something that is a problem and that needs to be fixed.
It is a plague when we are supposed to embody the fruit of the Spirit: kindness, compassion, love, faithfulness, gentleness, patience. All those, I don't know them all, but and we do the complete opposite,
Yeah.
and we put up a cold front, and we're mean to people,
Mm-hmm.
and we judge them quickly, and we show little faithfulness to the true cause, and we um, have no mercy, focus on only what's the outside of us. And what was the first one again?
Mercy?
They made it more difficult to
Oh,
enter God's kingdom. We don't reach out to people who need it the most.
yeah.
Right?
Right.
And when we do that, we just throw out all of God's teachings, basically. Not all of them, but we throw out a very big part,
Yeah. Yeah.
a very important part.
Yeah. It all just goes to showing love to others and not just yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's good to love yourself, but love others over yourself.
We have a lot of self-love in
Culture.
our cultural moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly because of money
Yeah.
a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, yeah, just like a lot of people will just say, just like, do what you want to do, put yourself first. Do you do you?
Mm-hmm.
And all this other, like I've talked about the other like famous things about like speak your truth and your, um, whatever, all that kind of stuff. It's just really individualistic, and it focuses primarily on you, and it puts you at the center of the universe, and it puts your problems in front of everyone else's problems, and it just wrecks all ideas of family, community,
Yeah.
social construct. It destroys it all.
Yeah. And it makes like certain people just not like start not liking the way that people act.
Yeah, when we do that, it pushes everyone away.
Yeah.
I had this idea that I was thinking about, but I kind of forgot.
It's like going back to what we were saying, like we are all mean Christians sometimes. I just think of like because I've watched multiple videos and it's like people reacting to mean Karens or something, and it's like sometimes people make the joke that where they say they're like this lady, this is one of those ladies that like you know goes to church every week and tries to make herself look better, and like I mean that could be true. Obviously, it might just be going to church kind of making their outward appearance looking better, but then they go on an outburst like that and um, don't make Christians look good or just don't make themselves look good, obviously.
Yeah, this is not like obviously people are gonna struggle and have issues and like have those moments, where we all fall short,
Yeah.
but we see it more and more often and
Mm-hmm.
in ways that it shouldn't be and stuff like that. When people don't actually commit themselves to what they're meant to do in Christ.
Yeah. Just don't um, act out on others from those negative or mean actions that someone or something did onto you. Keep that away.
Yeah, I think we're just about done.
Yeah,
That's all I have. So,
that's all I have. Ben's closing his computer.
all right. Well, thank you. That was all for
Yeah,
today.
thank you. That was the intro to season 5, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
will be back with another countercultural topic. I could probably make this series like 30 episodes, but
What?
I will not.
You should.
That'd be a long.
You should.
That'd be.
Hello, my name Ben.ddavid.
That would be that would be 2.5 years worth of. Wait, no. Well, I'm thinking months.
What?
Sorry.
2.5 years?
Sorry, I was thinking months.
That is
For some reason I
crazy,
said
bro.
30 and divided by 12.
That is crazy, bro.
I forgot it was weeks. That'd be
Bro.
like 3/4 of a year.
Bro.
About
That is crazy,
about
bro.
3/4 of a year. All right, yeah, we're done.
All right, guys. Subscribe to us on Deezer. I will see you next time.
I